Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this stream looking into one of the internet's most infamous paedophiles, and well, that's debatable, but not to get into that. And I'm joined by a couple of esteemed guests in Lornography, in the ever enthusiastic BasedShaman and the often misunderstood Andrew Birkett. Hi, guys.
Maybe they're all right. Who knows? Hi, guys.
What's up, everybody?
And yeah, I guess we're going to talk. These guys know a lot more about Lorne than me, but it's always an interesting subject. It's both of these guys' videos that drew me into the world of Lorne and actually trying to have a little bit of a voice in that world, I guess. But we are going to take an alternative look at the life of Lorne Armstrong and literally dive down his literal rabbit hole. And have a look at some of the other people in his life and what they may have thought of him. So going back to what we know about him in his earliest days, we know of his friend Bunky that took his toy. Maybe one of you guys can fill me in a bit more on that story and what he may have thought.
Do you know much about that, Based?
I don't think I know about that one. I don't think I've ever heard that one.
You haven't heard about Bunky? I know about Bunky.
Well, go on. You tell us based on what you know, Adam, because I've only got the details from that little clip within the Ramona thing.
Lorne wanted the toy he was playing with, didn't he? I think it might have been Lorne's toy to start with, and then his dad told him just let Bunky have it, which was something that deeply affected Lorne throughout the rest of his life, making him who we know now.
Wow, I never heard of that.
It was something that like I can't remember the context in which it was said, but I think he was trying to. He was trying to explain why he was a certain way, I think it was about his dad. I think he was talking about his father and how his father had let him down. And the one story that he could think of was when he let Bunky take the toy off him, and his dad told him to basically grow up her, and it kind of stuck with him.
So that hurt a little. Lorne. Was Bunky his cousin or brother or something like that?
I think he was just a friend, wasn't he? Like a childhood friend.
Wasn't he his stepbrother? I thought he was like one of his dad's sons or something.
Someone in the chat will no doubt know. I must admit there's a few people with screen names like that pop up in the comments called Bunky Armstrong.
Oh wow, Bunky's in the building.
I don't know whether they're there now, but they have in the past, and I don't know whether that's. But there's also people called Roscoe Armstrong. So, what was his other dog's name? Bud.
Yeah.
Bud. And Sadie, one of the dogs he's got now.
Yeah, I think so. Sadie.
Was that the one he put on the treadmill?
I think so. One of those two. Maybe that was Roscoe.
Yeah, and there was the dog. Oh, we're going down the chat log. We're gonna have to be careful. So the idea was today that it's just pre-chat log. So we're gonna try and. But do you know what was interesting about that sort of Bunky sort of story? What fascinates me about Lorne and people like Chris Shannon is what makes them who they are, which is at the beginning of Geo Samuel's videos, isn't it? So you would say that this incident shaped Lorne Armstrong's psyche, and that's why he remembers it. It's kind of interesting to know what kind of effect that would have had on him.
It is, and that he remembers that. Like that's something from his childhood that stuck with him this whole time. Exactly.
Yeah, you kind of got to have a bit of empathy for him. Of course, many people have toys taken off them and don't engage in.
It's just the start of him. I'm sorry, I'm being a bit rude straight away, but the start of him becoming a bit of a pussy, though, isn't it? It's the law of the playground. You just take the toy when you're a kid. I mean, when you're an adult, that's fine. But if he's had his time with it, I mean, you don't need to be unreasonable. But if he's had his time with it, you just take it.
Yeah. And he also he saw himself as a victim, and his dad is this guy who was trying to kind of not treat him victim now, and that Dateline NBC kind of treated him unfairly. You see what I mean?
That you mean this could have potentially started the victim mentality, couldn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting, yeah, because it's like not only did his cousin or friend let him down, the person that he looked up to as his father and a role model, he's also let him down. So therefore, like you say, he's going to think then the world's against me, which is kind of what he thinks, isn't it?
Yeah, and his sister, remember his sister? He blamed her for not making the macaroni and cheese for him.
Yeah.
Oh wait, my bad. We're not getting into all that yet. We're staying pre-chat log. Okay,
we can venture out occasionally.
Yeah.
No, but that would have been pre-chat log, wouldn't it?
It would have. You're right. Yeah, I'm tripping. Yes.
We only found out about it after the chat log, but it happened. That was one of his excuses in one of his videos about why he was messed up at the time.
Well, exactly. And to take it from this alternative view, do you think his sister was like sat there when he got busted watching it on To Catch a Predator going, shit, I really should have got round to making that macaroni and cheese?
Possible. That's very possible.
Wouldn't it be funny if like the ingredients were all there ready on the worktop in the kitchen and she was like, oh God, why didn't I just put them in the mixing bowl? And then her husband comes in and said, I fucking told you to do that, didn't I? Look what's happened now. Look on that TV.
Just a week before, Lorne had been banging on the table shouting, if I don't get that mac and cheese, I'm going to fuck a kid.
Could have been. The meatballs too, though, right? She was going to make him the meatballs too, or
I think that was one of his other siblings. There was deviled eggs, meatballs, and mac and cheese.
There was a lot of food. It's an interesting point to Lorne's life that he seems to blame a lot of his downfalls on not getting food. Do you think he was hungry a lot?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Fine. And if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about with him and the food, these are from like the vlogs that he put on his actual YouTube channel, where he's telling these stories that these are reasons why he was messed up in the head and got involved in this sting in the first place. Like, I can't believe he made videos saying that kind of shit.
It literally was, when he did that, you was kind of thinking, part of me thought, Lorne's got to be in on the joke. He can't be serious. This has got to be some kind of joke within. He's fooling everybody and making them think that he's a real person. Did you get what I mean? I thought it's the only logical explanation. But he actually had the audacity to come out and basically shift the blame from what he did to his siblings because they didn't make him food.
Yeah, that's bad.
It's another element which makes this story so unbelievable, and just kind of interested as well, Mr. Shaman. Right, what was it that drew you into the Lorne? Can you remember the first time or the first kind of things that got you into this little niche, if you will?
Oh yeah. For me, it was whenever he gets caught in the sting, and he just the reaction that he has, like the crying and we didn't see too many other people. Nobody else reacted as sadly as he did. Right? He was devastated, and then once I read the chat log, that's what really did it. I was like, 400 pages of him talking about his penis. There's only one Lord Armstrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're right. There's nobody else quite like him, is there? And I think I watched one of the videos on your website, Shaman, where you kind of explained a little bit why you find it interesting. And one of the elements is quite like mine, interesting, that he didn't just want to violate these girls like a lot of them do. That's obviously part of it, but he genuinely did have this love and affection for her, and it's another interesting element of it, isn't it?
Oh, it sure is, how deep these emotions went within him. And that's something I know a lot of people kind of go back and forth about, is whether or not he actually loved her. And I think maybe obsession. No one can deny his obsession with her. He was obsessed. He was his
with the idea of not being alone that was it. He was failing at life. That had been pretty obvious. Talking about like what was building up to that position, but he was failing at life, and he was just desperate not to be lonely.
Yeah, exactly. She was his happiness, or the idea of her, the idea of not being alone. Yeah, it's deep stuff.
I'm struggling to hear you guys at the minute. You keep cutting out. Is the audio okay for you two?
Yes, it's fine at this end at the moment. It's been a little bit choppy at times, but most of the time it's been fine.
Right, you sound a bit better now, actually. But yeah,
it could almost be a Black Mirror episode, though, or like that movie Her. But of course, the difference with Lorne is it was a kid.
Yeah.
What movie is that?
Her, I think it's called, the one where the guy like falls in love with the like robot that he's talking to. Well, not robot, like just like he falls in love with his operating system. He falls in love with Google, basically.
I don't remember that. Sounds like something pretty good, though.
Yeah, it's a decent film.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. Anyway, so we've kind of talked about the Bunky situation. What would be interesting, sort of, to me, if we could maybe discuss it, is how do we think his siblings sort of saw Lorne? It's difficult to say because we've only got Lorne's interpretation, of which we all know is going to be incredibly distorted.
True. So how his siblings saw him before all of this happened, I think they probably saw him as sort of, I would imagine they would see him as kind of a person who wants to use them and doesn't really care about them, cares about himself. What do you guys think?
I can't help but think they might have just thought he was a bit pathetic. But yeah, maybe I don't know how Lorne is, like if he borrowed money off his family and things like that to piss them off. But I think they might have looked. I don't know, but he's not the brightest tool in the shed, is he? That didn't make any sense. But,
no, it didn't.
But you know what I mean?
It's the lightsabers in the shed.
Let's not start with Star Wars. He's not like the cleverest person or the most charismatic. I don't know. Betty said he was quite pleasant in real life, though, didn't she? Maybe that's.
I believe Betty said that he came across as being quite charming. And Betty would admit, though, and I remember from an interview with her, God bless her, that she said that she always, and her husband always liked to see the best in people. So they gave people the benefit of the doubt. Now, with people of an older generation, that tends to happen more because, you know, back then, from what I know, people are a lot more trusting because there wasn't the complicated mess of people's deceptions that happen these days. But Betty did say that he came across as charming, and it's interesting that because he wanted something from Betty, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Which was money, and of course he ended up getting that. So, I mean, Betty's something we'll maybe go into a little bit later on into more detail because we do know quite a bit about that. But with regard to his siblings, what's interesting is in the chat, he never mentions any of his siblings in any affectionate way. They're all dumbasses. So one would assume that when he's gone to Nashville, he's basically fell out with all of them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Why does he talk like that about everyone in his life, though? Like, he gets really angry about everyone. It's like some kind of complex that everyone in the world is doing better than he is.
I think it's what Sherman said about this victim mentality. I think because he has got this victim mentality, when someone does something that he doesn't agree with because he's not particularly wise, he'll immediately refer to them as being a dumbass. So he expects too much of people as well, and that is very ridiculously obvious in the chat. He expects everything on a plate. and that's just his personality. So I think he expects thing from everybody, and because he doesn't get that, that's why he has that kind of mentality.
Yeah, like he thinks it's almost like he thinks the world revolves around him in certain ways. And even in the chat log, he never really asks Kayla about herself or her life or anything. It's always about him. You know what I mean? It's always about him.
That's very true. Like, I suppose it's quite narcissistic. He didn't need Kayla as much as just the idea of his trophy wife, because what he was probably thinking is, although like he would have been happy to bang a child, what he was probably thinking is like, when I'm gonna be 40, 50, she's gonna be like 26 or something, and he's like, yeah, and then everyone's gonna be like, oh yeah, Lorne, you're the man, look at you. But that's not what happened, luckily.
Yeah. He never takes responsibility for his actions. He still tries to blame Dateline NBC for what he did.
A minute, my chat's, my audio's cut out.
Oh. Yeah, no, he doesn't respect. But isn't that more something that's you would see in a single child, an only child, rather than Lorne, like not taking the blame for anything, because he does act like a spoiled kid.
That's interesting. I've never thought of that.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Oh, now everyone's audio is going a little bit bad. Sorry, guys, bear with me. Oh, I think.
Yeah, I could.
Right.
I can hear you again now.
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can. We've had these problems on Discord before, but it seems to work out all right for you, Base, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, I'm wondering if it's just because of the the distance, that might be affecting it.
Spain is more or less a third world country, so that might have something to do with it.
If you guys want to switch over, we could switch over if you'd like to.
If it's not going to cause too much disruption, I personally think we should just very quickly switch to Skype, because although it's not great and the sound quality is poorer, I think it works better across distances.
Yeah, I think we should too.
All right, cool.
Is there any way you can just put a pause on the stream, Adam, and then we'll go back to it?
Yes, I can. One moment. Okay, I think it's